You worked for Anheuser-Busch for 11 years, okay? Were you surprised that they hired this Dylan Mulvaney, this trans person, to market Bud Light? Did that surprise you when you first saw it?
It surprised me when I first saw it, but really how the company has transformed itself over the last 5 years, on reflection, I wasn't that surprised. I mean, this is an organization that had been based in St. Louis, Missouri for over 100 years. Yet 7 years ago, they moved their sales, marketing organization to New York City, hired a lot of people from New York City, hired a lot of marketing agencies from New York City, and adopted a stakeholder capitalism. And then by virtue of that, ESG, DEI, et cetera, and even changed the values of the company over the last 5 years. It used to be a company that's all about meritocracy. Yet all of a sudden now they changed their values to be not necessarily about hiring the best and the brightest, but actually measuring people on things like the diversity of their teams, the inclusiveness of their teams. And unfortunately, that's permeated really the entire organization, Bill. Okay. And that's what led to this outcome.
We should note that they fired their marketing in New York City because now they're in trouble, losing billions of dollars. Now, when you have a situation where the company's philosophy changes, that comes from the board of directors and the CEO, right?
It does come from the board of directors and the CEO, but unfortunately, that is foisted on them by companies like BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard that manage $20 trillion worth of capital. They're the single largest shareholder in 95% of the S&P 500 companies. And so therefore, they're foisting this agenda onto most major corporations.
Okay, most people don't understand what you're saying. BlackRock is a financial corporation based in New York City, right? They buy
Correct.
shares of companies all around, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And the worst part about this is, Bill, but they don't use their own money. This isn't like Bill Gates or George Soros.
People invest money into BlackRock. So now their choice of investment, buying shares in Anheuser-Busch or anything, is partially based on whether it's a woke company or not. Is that what you're telling me?
So what I'm saying is that BlackRock and others, they've adopted these political agendas and they manage $20 trillion of capital. It's your money, Bill. It's your 401k. It's in your pension fund. If you have a pension fund, they're using that capital to tell companies like Anheuser-Busch to adopt ESG, environmental social governance standards.
Well, what if Anheuser-Busch says we're not going to do it? Then what happens? Well, what does BlackRock do to them?
So what does BlackRock do to them? Well, they say that we're not going to invest additional dollars into your company. That's what I mean. Investors are going to pull out because you don't have a good ESG score, because your corporate equality index score has declined. So they're using a lot of these scoring mechanisms to allocate additional capital to companies and then punishing them when they are not actually abiding by sort of getting certain scores or goals.
So it's basically extortion. You do what we want you to do, BlackRock is saying, or we're going to pull our investments out of your corporations, weakening your financial portfolio. That's extortion.
That's basically it. I mean, it's not only BlackRock, but it's Vanguard, it's State Street, it's Goldman Sachs. I mean, you go down the entire list of companies. I mean, frankly, that's why I left Anheuser-Busch, is to create an alternative asset management company called Strive. And all we do is we're trying to have companies focus on corporate excellence, period. We believe in shareholder capitalism. If you're a beer company, create beer. Don't necessarily get involved in politics.
Yeah, I think it's horrible myself. So Anson's company is, he's the co-founder and president, is Strive, STRIVE, asset management based in Columbus. Final question for you. We're living in as you heard in my remarks earlier in the program, we're living in a country where the woke and the far left has assumed a lot more power than most people, I think, want them to. It's not like the majority of Americans are woke, and we're seeing that with Anheuser-Busch and Bud Light. I mean, they're losing billions of dollars because they did this and people were offended. But the guys at the top, the BlackRock guys, the people behind Biden, the George Soros people, they got so much money and so much power that they can basically push this country into a direction that most people don't want it to go. Do you agree with that?
They do have all that money and they do have a lot of the power. One of the reasons we created Strive is now giving people an alternative to push back. And luckily, we're starting to see a lot of states starting to push back. States like Florida, states like Texas, states like Indiana. But now we're also giving people, everyday citizens, firefighters, doctors, police officers, et cetera, the ability to invest their capital, to put it behind a cause like Strive that's going to be able to just maximize the value of their investments, not necessarily advance a progressive agenda like you're seeing at the BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard. So finally, we're starting to see the pendulum swing back. We've had a little bit of success so far, long way to still go. But I think there's a hunger and a desire for people to be able to vote their dollars and be able to put it behind asset managers that better reflect what they want to see companies do, which is, again, maximize value, not necessarily advance progressive values.
I appreciate it, Anson. Now we know why. The why is always the most important thing. Thanks for helping us out today.